Mr. E. Michael Jones, who is the editor of Culture Wars online magazine, and he's joining us live now from Indiana. Mr. Jones, how do you feel about Gulen's statement saying that he denies that his movement had anything to do with this assassination?
I think it makes perfect sense. I think that Erdogan's going to have to make up his mind here. Either Gulen supported the coup, which I think does make sense, which was an attempt to overthrow Erdogan and put a more favorable country, more favorable to the United States in, a government more favorable to the United States in, or he's in favor of this assassination. I think they're mutually exclusive. You can't have it both ways. I think that this assassination of the Russian ambassador is an expression of, first of all, that ISIS is losing. Whenever they lose, they engage in this terrorist type of activity. But secondly, I think it's also an expression of ISIS expressing their unhappiness at Turkey's betrayal of the ISIS forces. Turkey is now siding with the Russians. The Turks, the Russians, and the Iranians have now concluded an agreement that's pretty much going to be the end of ISIS in Syria. And I think that this is what has motivated the murder of the Russian ambassador.
Okay, so then, Mr. Jones, Turkey is, for a while now, obviously, ever since that failed coup occurred, has pressured the United States to repatriate Gulen to Turkey itself so he can stand trial there for the charges that have been brought against him. Do you think that that is ever really likely to happen? How much pressure does that put on the relationship between the two countries?
No, that will never happen. It's just not going to happen. He would only be expatriated or extradited if he were no longer useful to the United States, and he is still useful to the United States. I just don't think he had anything to do with the murder of the Russian ambassador.
So, and can you expand on that then, Mr. Jones? How is he useful to the U.S.?
Well, he can, if he still has operatives there, he can put pressure on the Erdogan government. And this pressure would be necessary now because Erdogan has now gone over and is siding with the Russians. So if he wants to pressure, if they want to put pressure on the Russians, if they want to exert pressure in this regard, then this guy in Pennsylvania will be useful to them. I think so. They're not going to get rid of him. They'll keep him in reserve, and they'll use him if they need him.
Okay, Mr. Jones, we'll leave it there at that point. But of course, as always, we appreciate you putting that all into context for us.